Welcome to Search for Signs. My name is Gary Willing. If this information interests you, please press the like and subscribe button and press the bell for notifications. The Masters have always lived on this planet from the dawn of time. Now, it is a question of really, were they living among us or were they living in more isolation, right? For the last 100,000 years, they've been living in relative, from our point of view, isolation. They've been living in the mountain areas of the world, very remote areas of deserts and so forth. And for the last 100,000 years, their work has not been very direct with humanity. And the only way that their work is really going out into the world is through their disciples in the world. Now, if you're hearing this for the first time, you might ask yourself, well, who are these disciples of these masters? Any man or woman throughout history, whether they were famous or not, whether they did fantastic, just, life-changing, altering work, or if it was very simple and very tiny in their own way, was or is a disciple of one of these masters. Now, most famous people throughout history that have contributed something were disciples of these masters. Like I said, other people that are totally unknown, that will never know their name, were also disciples of these masters. It's just a question of who and where and why, And so now the other question is why haven't we heard about these masters from some of these other people? Well, we've heard about these masters through a few of the disciples, just a few, like Helena Blavatsky, Alice Bailey, Helena Roerich, of course, Benjamin Creme. Those disciples, that was their job, is to introduce us to the masters of wisdom. Other disciples were doing fantastic work in whatever field they're working in, but yet maybe didn't know anything about the masters, like Winston Churchill or Roosevelt are good examples. They helped stop the progress of the Axis powers during World War II, right? Did fantastic work. It would have been terrible if the Axis powers would have won. And they were very, very advanced disciples, and they did what they did only because they are that advanced, but yet they knew nothing about the masters. They were inspired to do what they did by the masters, but yet knew nothing about it. So if you were to go back in time and talk to Winston Churchill about Maitreya or whatever, he'd have no clue what you're talking about, right? Other disciples, just as advanced, like Mozart or Rembrandt, to name a few, Shakespeare, worked directly with humanity, but it wasn't their job to inform the public of the masters. Now, they might have hinted about it in their art or their music or their writing, as like Shakespeare, and gave really phenomenal esoteric truths through their music, like Bach or somebody like this, that knew who the masters were. And the truth of their work will be coming out more and more once the masters come out. But for right now, most people just hear Bach or Mozart and just hear the music and, oh, it's lovely or not, or read Shakespeare or can quote him or not, right? But they miss the fact that there's all these esoteric truths in there. Other disciples, they might just be doing something in their own life, to help humanity along. They might be a school teacher or a doctor or something, I don't know, but yet they're serving humanity in their own way, in the quiet way, very simple, but yet still might not know anything about these masters. Now, the other thing is this situation is not going to be like this forever, because the masters are already starting to come out. Of course, it's starting with Maitreya being on TV, and it also, to add to that, a certain small group of masters have slipped into some major cities around the world, like New York or LA or San Francisco, London, Geneva, Tokyo, Paris, Rome, Moscow, just to name a few, and have been living in relative, unknown, they've been living, unknown lives in those cities, right? But that's going to change too. We'll eventually know that the Master Jesus lives in Rome, or to name one of the masters who's living in one of these cities, or that there's a master in New York, whatever his name is, or a master in San Francisco or LA or so forth. But those masters aren't going to be introduced until Maitreya is out, known for who he is, after he's declared himself as Maitreya. So that's whenever that happens. Now, the other thing is that all these disciples in the world and all these people who desire change and desire, a better life for humanity, a clean environment and so forth, that are working every day in whatever field they're working in, right? They know nothing about these masters. Of course, when they start to see Maitreya and these masters on TV, well, that's going to do what? It's going to galvanize their work even more, because they've already been doing the work of these masters, even not knowing who the masters are. And so when they see somebody like Maitreya at the level and the stature that he is, but also when they see and they really start to resonate with in their own hearts the divinity that Maitreya can actually embody, the love nature of God, it will, of course, inspire their own work, and it will speed the whole process up. Like I said, because for the last 100,000 years, all the work of these masters have been going through these disciples. So if a disciple is lazy or selfish or doesn't do the work the way they're supposed to do, well, of course, the master's work is distorted. But now, for the first time in known history, humanity will start to learn from these masters. These disciples will start to get their inspiration directly from these masters, whether it's on TV or their internet, or if they see them in person or whatever. But the relationship and the dynamic between humanity and the kingdom above us, the spiritual kingdom of masters, it will basically close the bridge between those two kingdoms. And eventually, the plan is that you won't be able to tell a difference between a master and a regular person. And that's really the process that we're undertaking now. It's the starting now. But so if you were to go back and listen to one of my previous videos where I said that most Christians view the reappearance of the Christ as a single event. Well, it's not. It's a process. It's a process that's been going on for 100,000 years. And it's also a process that's going to be going on long after that. Because it's not about the Christ coming back in the world. It's about the transformation of the hearts and minds of every man, woman, and child on this entire planet from now on. So it's a massive undertaking. But with the masters living among us now, it's all going to the whole process is going to speed up. It can't help to speed up. Because I'll leave you with this, is the masters will tell you that every single person in the world is divine. Every single person in the world is creative. Every single person in the world will eventually be a master, just like the master Jesus or the master who was Paul or the master who was Peter. We're behind them in time-wise, right? If that is true, and this is what I'm going to leave you with, is when we see perfect examples of what we're aspiring to do, and we're not unconscious about it anymore, where we aren't aware of what we really are becoming, well, of course, that's going to speed up the whole process, and it's just going to, we're going to be light years ahead of where we are today, in our own hearts and our own minds, but also technologically and the way the humanity is and the way that, the world is going to be, it's going to be far different than it is today, because we will have the knowledge of the fact that we're souls. Do you see what I'm saying? And we'll be working toward manifesting that moment to moment. But like I said, we'll see perfect examples of it in our lives with these masters and with Maitreya. And as always, take action. Help SOP save our planet. Thanks for listening, and we look forward to talking to you again in future videos. Have a great day.